conception. You know, you start off 2 cells. Now, this is where not only the math, but the actual symbolism starts to really get interesting. You start off one, bisect this piece, and now you have two, but you think of bisection, the letter B literally is a bisected circle. So when you think of all the letters in the English alphabet, they're all based off of a principle called squaring the circle, which basically is just it's a numerical formula to build a specific structure with specific intent so that those symbols actually have math in them that makes perfect sense out of every position in the alphabet. But this is one of these little pieces that I was just, that's kind of crazy, because there's a symbol that resembles this almost perfectly called, they call it the seed of life, and it is the circles overlapping like this. So when the circles overlap like that, you get a hexagon right in the middle. And it's not until there's 4 cells that you can actually get that angle to even look at it from. But it's not until there's, oh no, this is 8 cells. It's not until there's 8 cells that those cells take on a meaning of their own. So you start off, you got 50% of your mom, 50% of your dad. You're not actually yourself until you get 8 cells. And it forms a symbol that's significant across so many cultures, but not even just across these cultures, in math. Like, if you just start looking at how much is in there, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy how much math is in just that one symbol. But even iller than that is the fact that you got that same star right there as soon as you got 8 cells. But if you look at all the cultures that have taken that same symbol and said, oh, this is ours, they're trying to own it for a reason. It's not that, oh, well, this is just part of my culture. It's like they're trying to really try to be the ones who started it all. And really none of them did at the end of the day. But the first people who understood it were Africans. And I feel like that the only person that will try to convince you otherwise is either stupid, misinformed, or just straight up ignorant, you know, because you can't find this information in this amount of detail anywhere else. And that's the other place I've found a lot of this info, is just looking at hieroglyphs, looking at building structures, building techniques that they were using in Egypt. But not only the building structures and the formulas, like the actual information that they're building into every single thing that they did. So like a lot of those statues, the proportions are all based off of the golden ratio. Like, so the facial structures, everything. Like, and people will say, oh, this is what King Tut looked like. That's like saying this painting of King Richard, this is what King Richard looks like. Of course, it's not exactly what he looked like. The artist added a few little embellishments, you know, that mole that he hates, he left that out. But they are representations of Africans. And if you just look at the cheekbones specifically, like, you don't find those cheekbones on too many people. But even recently,
I've been to Egypt, and I've seen the pictures myself, and I said,
yeah,
that person's awfully dark.
Exactly. Now,
on the walls.
Do you know that a lot of those hieroglyphs they've touched up? So a lot of the ones that they show that it looks like someone, oh, maybe they're Middle Eastern, maybe even white. Someone came in there and actually touched those up. So if you got a bunch of Europeans coming in there and becoming Egyptologists, studying Egypt, which isn't even an African word, so at the base of all their information that they're studying, it makes no sense at all. And that's the reason, literally, that they have not been able to figure out anything about Giza specifically. So they're all in Giza, while there's thousands of pyramids in southern Africa. They're all in Giza because these 3 pyramids are so big they just can't fathom, oh, how'd they do it? How did they do it? I don't know, I don't get it. You kill all the people off, take all the information that's there, and then try to rediscover it. Like, and it's funny, like this idea of discovery. Oh, we just discovered this. I saw this one thing. Oh wow, we just discovered these pyramids in South America. How do you discover something someone else left behind? That's like you come in and discovering my boots while I just took them off and left them at my door. It makes no sense, but it's like you're not discovering, you're just realizing there's more to it than you thought. But it's crazy because the more advanced we get, the more we're actually regressing from real information that'll help us advance, but also the more we're actually, or I shouldn't say we, because I don't count myself with these guys, but the more that we're leading to places that are really so shaky, that delicate balance that keeps this earth alive and or keeps this earth sustainable for us to stay alive on it is shifting. So when you see the way the weather's changing, I feel like one thing that's funny is people, oh, global warming is a problem. We really got to do something about this. If you just think of the way the earth is composed, you got this rock floating around in a big ass bowl of water, basically 70% water. So we're surrounded by water. We're just kind of floating around in a pool of water. If you ever put dirt in water and see the way what happens, like it'll float, but after a while it's going to soak up more and more of that water and start to sink. But you got ice caps, ice on the top and bottom, water everywhere else, a little bit of land we can live on. The ice is melting, we know that. The sea level's rising, we know that. The great floods are right in the Bible. Like, so this isn't like some crazy notion that this is not really sustainable the way we're going, but it's just mind-blowing that they just keep going the same way anyway. But if you think of the people making these choices, it's like they made a lot of choices that add up to zero, you know, from bestiality to selling their women for goods, like you know, just the type of stuff that's like, hey, you want to strengthen your bloodline or you want to curse your whole offspring? And you see the choices they're making now, they're still doing it, you know. So I feel like what's really funny about a lot of this stuff, when you look at all this political shit that black people don't really have a dog in, you know, oh man, this is like the worst mass shooting in American history. Oh man, it's crazy. Because 50 white people got shot at a country music concert by a guy who loved country music. You will never hear about a hip hop concert where someone just came to shoot the place up. They might come there, somebody steps on their Jordans, things escalate, but they're not going to just be shooting at everybody there. They're shooting at the guy they don't like. Why the hell would somebody just start shooting at a bunch of people that look just like them? Because he already... And I feel like the reality is like, people don't understand, like there's so much information in your DNA. Every single thing you learn, every experience you have, every choice you make impacts the way your DNA is formed, but all that information is jotted down in there somewhere. You can tap into that information and actually achieve higher knowledge, but you just have to think about it. And when you start to actually think along the right thought patterns, your vibrational frequencies of your body will start to change. Vibration, you know, even just speaking is vibration. You know, your heart beating at a specific frequency, 528 kilohertz. The chlorophyll, which is the actual energy the sun produces that helps us sustain ourselves on this planet, the energy that plants absorb, when it reaches the surface of the earth, is vibrating at 528 kilohertz. You know, all the planets are vibrating at that very specific frequencies. I forget what planet's 528. Oh, actually, the Earth, 528 kilohertz. So when you look at the Fibonacci sequence, 528, those are like some of the first most significant numbers in the entire sequence to start off the whole chain reaction that builds not only the golden ratio, but pi. The other thing is like pi and the golden ratio, they're both numbers. They start off at one level. They don't, one starts up here, one starts off here. If you just let them keep going, eventually they are at the same place and they keep going. But after a point, they stabilize and they form a coalescence. This is literally like yin and yang. You look at flowers, the number of petals on flowers literally follows the Fibonacci sequence as flowers grow. A sunflower, as it grows, you can actually trace the golden ratio to perfection. You know, a snail shell, whirlpools, galaxies, like. But if you think about all that stuff, it all works the same way in reverse. And the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio both work the same way forward and backwards. They can go on infinitely. Like even this whole flat earth thing going on recently, I'm like, so after everything that you've experienced, the fact that your head is a sphere, the fact that your cells are spheres, the fact that a sphere is the most perfect object you could ever imagine, but you think the earth is flat. More power to you, man. But you know, I feel like I could rant about this stuff all day, to be honest. So